and welcome to Community Spotlight. I'm Kim, and I am excited today. We'll have a couple of guests on. We're going to start with Innocence, and I apologize for not knowing your full name. Help me out here.
Innocent Turner. I am a clinical social worker here in the Delaware area.
So tell me about clinical social worker. I always hear all of this stuff. I don't really understand all of it. Help me out.
Yeah, so it's interesting. So my degree is in social work. I have a master's degree in social work. My credentials are LCSW, so a licensed clinical social worker. And that just comes with a certain level of years of experience and hours doing clinical work. Okay. Clinical work is one-on-one versus what we would call macro work, which is working in systems and community.
Okay.
So clinical social worker is one that focuses more on the person as opposed to the bigger system.
Okay. I just got educated. Thank you.
You're welcome.
I appreciate you taking that time because I hear people say it all the time. I'm like, okay, they're a big deal. I don't know what it is, but you get to be a big deal now.
Yes.
So, and that's true because that hard work and time that you put in should be acknowledged.
Yeah, and I will say the other I guess key thing with a clinical social worker is that, or why people emphasize that they're clinical, is that there's a stereotype that social workers only come to take kids or help you with welfare benefits and things of that nature. And it's a much more broad degree and a more broad skill set.
Okay. So tell me about that skill set. Okay.
Yeah, well, I'll tell you about mine.
That's what I want to know, lady.
So for me, I was early in my career, after I got my master's, I was maybe 22.
Okay.
So the idea of being a therapist, I found to be really intimidating.
Okay.
I felt like I'm 22 years old. How can I advise someone else on their life or their depression, their anxiety when I'm just now starting to understand who I am as a person?
Okay.
So I was very much like, I do not want to be a therapist. Put me in a system.
Okay.
So one of my first jobs was as a community social worker working with Medicare patients. So people who are 65 or older or have a disability. And so that process I learned that, or in that role, I would say, I learned a lot about the system, how things work, how they don't work, how frustrating the system can be, and how even with a degree, with experience, I struggle to properly advocate for the people who are on my caseload. And I'm like, well, how can they advocate for themselves? And they don't even have half the information that I have. So that was one of the first roles. But in that, I saw how prevalent mental health was. And I'm like, okay, as I get my hours and my work in, I'm gonna get my clinical license, and that's where those hours come in for the clinical part.
Okay. And so what were some of the signs? What were some of the things you saw in mental health that you could see where people may not even be identifying their situation as, what mental health is? Sometimes people think mental health is just, you need to go to a room and sit or something like that, you know what I mean? But there's just so many degrees, there's so many levels of anxiety even, or of just situations and how you handle things that may qualify, or how you don't handle, like how you decide to have a drink or a smoke or something because you are self-medicating. People don't get that. So what are some of the things that you saw that let you identify this is real?
I would say the main thing I noticed, like being in people's homes, is how well their homes were kept. And one of the main things, or one of the main symptoms of depression is hygiene. A lot of times we think of hygiene as just how you take care of yourself, but it's also the space around you. And in our community, as a minority, Black and brown communities, we are trained and raised to keep our homes clean, right? It's like a point of shame if your home is dirty. But in the population that I served, it was commonplace for homes to be messy, dirty, just disorganized. And in the homes that were clean, I'm doing air quotes because maybe they clean up, there was always a spot of disorganization. So some people would call it the chair, where it's like a chair with like piles of laundry, not one or two shirts, that's normal, but we're talking like your week of dirty laundry just sitting there. And it's like, okay, well, this obviously is out of the norm for how you keep your home. Everything else is spotless. Why do we have the chair? Right. Or sometimes it would be the home is clean, but in talking with the person, they may not have brushed their teeth.
Really? Okay.
Right. So it's like kind of these small things where you don't think about it, but when you ask, people are hesitant to share because, again, there's shame. Like if an adult says they didn't brush their teeth, you're going to look at them a little side-eyed. I'm like, okay, that's interesting. So people know not what to say, but as you build a relationship, people become comfortable and they share those things. So it's really kind of these smaller things, or people who are invested in their health but miss medications. They don't take their medications when they're supposed to, or they miss certain doctor's appointments, or they love being around their family, but when it's time to go to a family event, they don't go.
Right. Okay.
Right. So it's sometimes it's a lot of small things that we count as like the person being weird, or they're just a little different. They don't like to be social when really it's depression or anxiety.
Okay. So, and how would you suggest people recognize, what are some of the things, like, when do you know that it's okay to, or maybe I should talk to a therapist? How do you know when to talk to your therapist as opposed to your best friend?
I don't know if it's a hard boundary. I think that sometimes when we're talking to people that we know, they jump into a role of normalizing certain things that should not be normalized because they love us, they care about us, they don't want us to feel bad, they don't want us to feel ashamed. So instead of our best friend being like, now you know better.
Exactly, right.
They might say, like, I get it, I understand, like, let me know if you need help, like, we'll come over and I'll help do this or do that. And so it's really more about when you feel like you can't handle your own life, or when you feel like you're not yourself and you can't quite figure out why, then I would say that's the telltale sign that you might need to talk to a therapist.
Okay. And I guess I would get confused, because if you've done it forever, it would still come to a point sometimes where someone says, okay, now enough is enough.
So if I'm talking to my best friend of years, right, and my best friend knows my whole life, and if people are with their best friends how I am with mine, I'm like, this is our life. We have a shared life, okay?
Right, exactly, 100%.
Yeah, like, this is our life, so whatever, right? But there are times where, she might be hesitant to tell me something.
Okay.
Right,
okay.
And so it's those moments where you're like, I know I may have spoken to my friend about this, or maybe you feel like this person don't want to hear about that no more. Right,
okay. And that makes sense. And so, how do we break the stigma that I should not talk to, or we don't talk to therapists, I don't need a therapist, it's not that serious? How do we kind of get people out of the point where they're believing that this is something I can handle myself, or I'm embarrassed, I'm ashamed, I really have normalized what I'm doing? How do we get past that point?
I think part of it is just we've gotten away from a sense of community in general.
Yes.
And so because we don't feel connected to other people the way that we used to, we feel it's odd to share how we feel, especially with a stranger. And if that stranger has a title like therapist, now I'm really not going to talk to them. But for me, my opinion is that the stigma is more in how society has shifted to everybody being an individual. We're now taught, like, the more independent you are, the better you are. And that's just not true. And the more interdependent you are, the healthier you are, because we're communal by nature. And so that's not really an answer, but I think the problem is beyond, like, is talking to a therapist a stigma. I think it's more a stigma of independence versus needing other people. And a therapist just happens to be one of those other people in your community that you can go to.
Yeah, so for me personally, I feel that people will easily acknowledge high blood pressure, kidney, everything but something that's mental like this. And they're more than willing, overly willing. So I'm a non-pill person, just FYI. So they're overly willing to take any little color pill, green, orange. They've seen all the side effects, still taking every single thing. Sometimes not even checking interactions, or, we're just, whatever the doctor says is fine, until it gets to therapy. And what are some of the benefits that you see in people once they start therapy? So we can encourage people. This is about encouragement right now.
Yeah, I think one of the main benefits that I see that I find really helpful is people just feel sure of themselves.
Okay.
When you're confident in yourself and you trust your own decisions, you will ask questions. You are more willing to speak up when things don't make sense.
Okay.
You know, you have a better idea or understanding of when you need help versus when you just need a break versus, you know, when you need, and help comes in different forms. So you need help just with everyday life, like chores or whatever, or you need help, like you need an ear.
Okay.
You need someone to talk to. But I just think that the benefit is you understand yourself, and understanding yourself helps you to be more comfortable, more confident, for you to navigate every other situation.
Okay. So that's really key. Again, so
I keep forgetting it's over there.
No, I just want to make sure everybody understands, because we are so, I guess, caught up in society and what we see and and depending on your era. So, I need to get more comfortable aging myself, but I don't always like to age myself, but okay. So my era was not one of fully therapy from my side. And there's a lot of people who are my age are just coming to the point where they're okay seeing a therapist. And I find that different periods, different situations, like certain things are okay, certain things aren't okay. And so I really want, whatever you feel you need, I really want people to get comfortable with just learning themselves, you know what I mean? And learning yourselves and being okay with figuring out who, what, where to go to and trust to do that. And a lot of times, especially in Delaware, it's such a small community, so you're wonderful, you're family to somebody I know, but we're kind of hesitant with, I'll be honest here, with other people of color. Like, okay, here's a beautiful Black woman, I'm Black and I can. So, you may be able to relate to some of the things. So there's we may have be able to speak the same language where I'm saying something and you're not going to kind of wonder, what the heck is she saying, So I can feel comfortable just speaking and being me, So I want to encourage people to find people they're comfortable with and that you can just be yourself. The whole purpose is to be you, and you shouldn't have to go to a therapist where you feel like they're not relating to you. Right. So I think that's really important.
And I think, too, that, again, you have to understand who you are to understand what you need. Right. So, and it does happen sometimes where, I'm a very direct person, but I have an interesting sense of humor, right? Okay. So I'm a little weird when it comes to sense of humor. And sometimes that confuses people because they're not used to someone being silly and direct. And they're like, well, they have a hard time figuring it out. But the one thing I tell any person that I'm seeing for the first time in therapy is I'm human first. Right. I'm human first, I'm a therapist second. And I always say that because I'm like, I have my own set of experiences. And while, if you happen to be a Black woman, there are certain commonalities and shared experiences we have. You don't know where I come from and I don't know where you come from. So we also have to be open-minded in the commonality, right? Yes. So even though, let's say we both grew up on the north side of Delaware, there's we probably go to the same store, right? But we probably don't like the same type of hoagie.
Yes,
right?
Especially
I say hoagie, I'll say stuff. Right. So, it's things like that, right? Where like some people drench their hoagies in mayo and I'm like, I will barf. Right. So even in the shared experience, there are some differences. And I think we just look at the differences more because it's human nature to go in your comfort zone. So I'm going to find a thing that makes me comfortable, even though it sounds counterintuitive. If there's a difference that's going to put me back in my shell and not open up to you, I'm comfortable being in my shell. So I'm going to find anything that's going to let me retreat into the space that I'm comfortable in, even though I'm trying to come out of it because I'm not comfortable in it. Right. I don't know if that makes sense.
It makes sense 100% to me, because I find that people always say, so, I'm in the death care industry too. And so people always say, death brings out the worst in people and stuff like that. But I feel as though people hit and are comfortable with anger, that's a feeling that we know that we've experienced, and grief and that hurt, that pain that comes from it is unfamiliar, and we don't know what to do with that. So, somebody did something, I'm gonna hold on to the anger.
Exactly.
Because I don't want to deal with that. So I totally see that, because I try to encourage people to not pay attention to these things as we're dealing with this grief process and not take anything personally. But I definitely see how you hold on to what's comfortable in whatever.
Even when it's harmful.
Right. Even if it's denial. If you've been somebody who's always been in denial, you may stay in denial through those times, and just trying to help people navigate. So that's a time for me that I really feel that people need to either, and I always tell families who are there to pay attention to each other, because you may do little things, like somebody, the last time you saw them, they were on the street. People don't even recognize you're going 20 blocks out of the way, and they've done it for so long that, and then finally one day they go down that street, they break out crying, they don't figure out what's going on. Yeah. But no matter what, at some point when you went down that street, you were going to cry. But rather than kind of deal with it, for a lot of years,
you avoided.
They kept going around and around. So I see that side in grief for me, and just want to have people kind of watch out for each other. Yeah. Go into the same room. It's just so many little things that happen that we do to, I guess, comfort ourselves. I don't know what the heck it is.
So in the therapy world, anyone who's been to therapy will have probably heard their therapist say avoidance is the number one coping skill, right? Because it's easier to just not deal with the feeling, regardless of what it is. Because a lot of times, we learn how to speak to one another. We learn how to be kind. We learn a lot of different things. We're never taught in school or in life until it becomes problematic about our own emotions. Right. And so the role of a therapist, we learn deeply about emotions, and there are different styles and all of that, but nonetheless, we learn about emotions, which is why, if you struggle with anxiety and depression, your therapist will give you different skills. What works for depression doesn't always work for anxiety, and vice versa. So it's like you have to understand what the actual cause is that you're reacting to. Because if you try to correct, example, you can't build a sandcastle with a hammer, right? A hammer is a tool to build a house. Right. A sandcastle is a type of house, but not the house that needs a hammer, right? It's not gonna work. And so sometimes people have a skill. They're like, okay, well, talking to my friend has always made me feel better when I felt depressed. But if I feel anxious, talking to my friend isn't helpful because that's the wrong tool for that feeling. But we haven't learned to recognize the difference in the feeling. So that's why you get, someone will avoid the block for 10 years and the one day they just zoned out, forget they're supposed to avoid, they go down, they burst into tears because they've never experienced that emotion and they've been trying to manage it with the wrong tool, which is avoidance in that scenario. And you can only avoid so long. And then now you've had 10 years pass of not recognizing that emotion, not working through it, not knowing what works for you when you feel that. And now all you can do is cry.
That's it. And in that cry is sometimes good. So that cry is great. That cry. I want you to cry because I want you to know that you have to go through it. You have to go through it. So I want it to be a good cry. It's okay. It's a cool thing from time to time.
Crying is very cleansing. It's good for you.
That's important. So then we get to you get to younger people. And so, this is going to seem crazy, but I see it a lot now. So I'm going to ask the question. This is a space. I find a lot of young people either drink or smoke weed to cope. What do you... is that something that's just life? It's a season? Because I love my grandmother who has transitioned now, but I think she might have drank sometime. She didn't drink a lot, but I think, sometimes we've gone through different eras of what was okay during that time period. You know what I mean? So there was a time, and especially, on TV, everybody on TV drinks. You notice that? I don't care what scene they're doing, they have some alcohol in there. Like, what the heck? And I'm not a drinker, but that's not why I noticed that. But I do. I really noticed that. But today's young people seem to need it. You know, I find a lot of people that I know, they're like, okay, I'll be okay this morning after I smoke. You know, let me get my smoke and then I'll be okay. How is that cool? Like, do we help? Do they need to talk to somebody? Do they what's that about?
I think there is a certain part of it that's just cultural, right? Like when we think about like the 60s, I wasn't born, but according to the textbooks, that was a time where, you know, people were experimenting, you know, they had like Woodstock and things like that. And those were teenagers that were, you know, participating in those events. And then we got to a moment where we realized, you know, that smoking and drinking, regardless if it's, you know, tobacco, weed, whatever, is not good for a teenager, right? And so I grew up in the 90s where we had the DARE programs, like drugs are horrible, and like the Truth commercials, where it's like smoking is even worse. So I do think that times change sometimes, and I do think part of why kids are more indulging more in drinking and smoking is it's just part of the pendulum shifting back and forth, and that's what happens. I think the level of it has changed, and I think because there is a lack of that communal accountability, it's just more prevalent, and kids do it more. They're not trying to hide it from their parents anymore. Like, I was good and grown, still trying to hide the fact that and like, I don't know why, like my mom drank, you know, I don't know what that was about, but I just think there's just a shift in cultural norms in society. I do think that kids are more exposed to a larger world. Like for me, I didn't have social media as a young child. It came around when I was a teenager, older teenager. So it's normal for kids to compare themselves, but the bubble was small. It was the north side of Wilmington. And then when I moved to Philly, it was my neighborhood in Philly. Now it's kids who may be 4 or 5 years older than you that are super wealthy, that live across the world, you know, that live in a different place, you know, like in Latin American culture, it's normal for kids to drink at about 16. So now with social media, we see that kids drink at 16. You know, whereas for us, it's always been 21. So, you know, that's what I mean by some of the cultural shifts. It's like we're exposed to more, we see more, and so kids' idea of what's normal has shifted.
So how do we deal with that? There is no norm. I mean, for me, what is normal? Normal is
it changes. Normal. Yeah, it's variable. I do think too that kids they want to be aware of their emotions, and we know this because we'll hear kids say like, "Oh, I'm so depressed," right? Like. That's a new thing, right? We haven't really, I don't think I knew the word depressed until I was like 20, right? Maybe older. But, you know, we will hear kids say like, I'm depressed, I have anxiety, you know, like they go on Google, they're like, I'm bipolar, right? Like moodiness is part of being a teenager. Like you're not, get over it, right? But, you know, all that to say, I think they're trying to make sense of their world. And the way that they do that is by doing what other kids do. Normal. But when we look at like parents, we're busier as parents than we've ever been. And so the fear that like your mom is going to come home at any moment, so let me try and like hide what I'm doing is not there because you have a phone, you got your mom's location, you see exactly how far away she is. And if you're not in the right state of mind, if you maybe smoked a little bit too much, you're going to hide. Like you're going to somebody else's house. You're like, no, mom, you said I could, you know, so I just think the whole thing is different. But ultimately, I think what is the same is like kids need guidance and they don't know how to ask for it, especially from their parents. As a kid, you think your parents are strange until you get older. And so I think what I would say for any youth is find another adult that isn't your parent that you know you can trust that will keep you safe. And talk to them.
That makes sense. That makes a lot of sense. As a parent, when is it okay to try to urge your child to, and even so I don't want to say like you've got little kids, you've got 20s, 30s, even 40s. Like, when do you try to encourage, or, you know, a friend, or how do you encourage someone that you think therapy may help? How do we do that tactfully, lovingly? How does all that happen? Or should you not, if you're not in that space? Like, how do you do that?
I think you can. I think sometimes the people closest to us see things in us that we don't see in ourselves. And so I think if you see that in someone, just say it. There is sometimes the truth hurts. And sometimes there is no nice way to say the thing other than saying you need therapy. Like, it's just what it is. Like, you need to talk to a therapist, right? Like, I can't help you in this situation. Or maybe I tried and this is month 6 and we're still talking about the same thing and I'm out of ideas. and clearly you are too, because we wouldn't be talking about it still. So I just think that like there's never like a perfect way of saying it. I think it's easier to just say it, and if someone's offended, have a conversation about it. You know, like it doesn't need to be a point of contention or a point of argument. Just say it if they don't like. Most of the time, if you were to say that to someone, they're like, why? Ain't nothing wrong with me. And then you can run down the list. Like, okay, so that's what you think. But let me tell you what I see from my perspective, right? What I've noticed is this and that. And that's different because you were normally this way or that way. And maybe you're just changing and evolving. That's what we're supposed to do. But I'm not a therapist, so I think you should talk to one so they can help you.
Exactly.
You know?
That's a good thing. I'm not the therapist. Yeah. I like that side of it all. So I see our time is running out. I want to give you just a few seconds, a few minutes of your expertise, and I may have to have you come back on because I know that you have some expertise in helping people knowing Social Security systems and Medicare, Medicaid systems and things like that. So you want to do that another time? Because that's a lot.
Yeah,
that's a lot. Okay. So
that's a big one.
We're going to have you back then because that is a big one for me. And as we shared earlier, it changes so much and it's so hard to do. I feel that it's so unfair, some of the expectations that government has on people who have no skill set in this, you know, like you guys put these crazy forms and things and systems together and suddenly you want people who have no idea what this madness is to be able to navigate it, and it's a little difficult. So
yeah, it's very difficult.
Yeah, it really is.
It's intimidating too.
It's definitely, it definitely is. And it's so wild because so I deal with it a lot with long-term care, and sometimes what would be considered the straight answer can take you up, down, and around a wheel that, like, dang it, I should have just put this. You know what I mean?
And that's the thing. I always feel like it's like people are stuck of like, do I answer how I think they want me to answer? Or is this a trick question? Because you just asked me that question too. Now you're asking me a different way in question 9. So like, what is happening here?
Exactly.
Yeah, it's definitely a little convoluted and more complicated than it needs to be.
So, all right. So let's say we wanted to, you said you have a practice of your own?
Yes, I do.
So we need to get with you. How do I find you? What do we do?
So my website is evolvebh.com. That's evolvebehavioralhealthsolutions.com. You can find me there. You can log on to that, or you can search that website. You can schedule a therapy session or just a consultation, and we'll have a conversation about your needs.
So now, do I have to come in person? Can we do it? How does this work?
I do have an office if you want to meet in person. Like everybody else, I'm used to working remotely and I like it. So Zoom is preferred, but it doesn't work for everyone. So you have the choice of being in person or online.
Are there specific hours that I should call you?
It's flexible. Yeah, it's flexible. But I would say on the website, you can email me. That is the quickest response. And I usually respond within a few hours. But if you want a phone call, that might be a day or two.
Okay. All right. Anything special that I may have missed that we know we should get to the people?
I don't think so. I would just say there's really no purpose in having shame in any situation, whether it be if you need a therapist or you just need help with life. Shame is not a helpful tool, and all it does is isolate. So as much as possible, if you feel like shame or guilty, that's a signal that you do need to reach out and talk to someone, whether it be a friend, family member, or a therapist.
All right. So we've got our start. We're in 2025 and we're going to get some things done. So yes, it's a time for action. Okay. Yes. So that's what it takes. A call for action here. And in this call for action, we've got to start. We can give you a call. Say your number once more.
My number is, do I know it by heart? You can reach me on my website. So evolvebehavioralhealth.com.
All right. So that's the best way. That's the best way. And the email is there? Or
yes, it's a contact. So you can email or text.
Email or text. Okay, great. All right. Well, I thank you so much for sharing your time.
Of course.
I'm going to get with you because we're going to have you come back again so we can go through all of the nuances of trying to deal with that social system. Ooh, it's tough.
Yeah,
but thank you so much. We'll be right back with our next guest. You'll love her. Welcome back, and look who I have. I am blessed to have a superstar with me today. We have baby Miss Delaware for 2024, Miss Akora. So you have to say her full name for me.
Akora Zaria Miller.
Akora Zaria Miller. And her mom, Tajay. She's just a sitting post here today. Oh, there went the crown. She had enough of that for today.
I think so.
We have been putting it on and off for a minute here now. So, all right. So tell us all about pageantry for babies.
For babies? So pageantry for babies is very, very interesting. It's not normal, like Miss America. You got babies that exhibit A. They don't sit still. They want their mommies. They want their bottles. They don't want to have certain things on. But it's a cool experience. It was very cool for her being an African American baby from Delaware doing it, whereas there was 17 other babies, but she was the only African American baby that signed up for the pageant. So it was really, really cool. It was fun doing the fundraisers.
Okay.
You're done?
So that was some of it, doing fundraising?
Yes, so we did a couple fundraisers, fish fries, dinners.
Yay. And the fundraisers are to?
So you have to raise a certain amount of money for different competitions. So you have the photogenic competition.
Okay.
You have the happy competition. It was all different types of competitions. And Exhibit A, this is exactly how baby pageants go.
Yeah.
Down on the ground.
Yay. Okay. And she's back. Uh-oh. So as we are, how many different competitions was she involved in?
So one was Mardi Gras competition, and that one, because we were in New Orleans, the pageant director, that is where she's from, so they have to dress up in Mardi Gras attire. So Mommy actually made her dresses. Sheen and Mommy made her dresses, and it was pretty cool. Back the Blue, so they support a lot of the police officers around the world, and it was cool to take part with one of the little girls. Her dad actually was a police officer, so it was cool to be involved in that. Also, we had for breast cancer, so they had to wear pink Western wear. And that was our favorite. With the little cowboy boots, cowgirl hat, but it all had to be pink towards breast cancer. And then just simply them in their nice fashion wear, which they call it Jennifer Wu. So Jennifer Wu is the top pageant dress company in the world. It's pretty cool.
And so with each of these, were they all done in different areas, or where was each pageant or part of it? So
the pageant, it was all part of the pageant itself. So each girl had to compete, so it was 4 different divisions. So you had baby miss, little miss, and then of course you're like 12 and up division.
Great. And so how, for you, what was the experience like?
It was amazing. No, it was a cool experience to have a little one that you said you would never be able to have. And you have one, and to put them in a spotlight, it was pretty cool. And it was an experience, and hopefully we'll do it again. Hopefully she's better trained by that time.
There's no such thing. She's great. She's great. She's great. So, and then let's just talk a little bit about that, because I think that's very interesting, and in today's world, it's a lot of that. So tell us about your experience, how you were told you would not have a baby.
So I think it stemmed back from 14 years old, and they told me I would never conceive a child. So I was like, okay. I was like, oh, I'll just be the rich auntie to all my friends' kids, and that's just how it went. And then magically she came, and she changed the whole life big time. People don't realize children change your lives and come for a reason. So whatever the reason is, even if you don't know, there is one.
There's definitely one. And that's so key, because society today is so much different than it was then. And so for people to make those statements early, not to change diet, and I know you've changed your diet a lot. So diet, I always feel diet has a lot to do with it. So I think as you clean things up, your body can work better.
Definitely.
And so you know that you yourself did a lot of that.
I did.
Tell us about it. What was it like?
Oh, my diet changed?
Everything. Tell us about your
coming
experiences.
from 300 and we're not going to say the other digits, and coming down to, I think I'm 137 now.
Okay.
It's a major difference. It's a drastic change. No more headaches. You can get up and down the steps easily, go get on a plane and feel comfortable to sit on a plane. There's a lot of different things, but diet change is definitely key to the world to stay here and be here. That's the number one thing, is being here.
So, yeah, definitely. And so, how long did it take? What were some of your steps? How did you feel? I mean, it had to be like a lot of emotional, a lot of, and did it happen? Tell us, give us your journey. Just a little of your journey.
I thought this was about the baby.
Oh, we include it all.
Yeah.
You get that baby here. So she opened the door. This is like court. Once you open the door,
everything comes. No, but gastric sleeve was my way of making that change. It's not an easy step. People think, oh, I'm going to get the sleeve and I'm going to lose weight in like a week. No, that's not the way it works. You have to put in work.
Yes,
it's a lot of work. Walking was the thing for me. Not so much the food change. It was more active.
Action.
Have to be active.
Yes,
you got to move. You got to do certain things. Eating, of course, no sodas. I mean, now I drink sodas because.
Do you?
Yeah, I came back to the funeral world. So I can't say no to families when they say, "Do you want a soda?" Sure.
Oh goodness. Okay.
Sure. But yeah.
Okay. So I know I really am excited. I've been excited for you through the journey. How old? Can I ask that question? Your age when you did it, or how far after high school, and in the midst of everything? Because it was after high school.
It was definitely after. I was here.
I know, but everybody else doesn't know.
2016 is when I had the procedure done, and now I'm 31, so just do the math. There you go.
So it's been a few years now, so it's been about 8 years, and it's been a journey.
It has. You fluctuate. You go up, down. Sometimes you have a stall where you're absolutely doing nothing. You're not moving, not losing any weight. Sometimes your emotions take place as well, because you're like, oh man, I'm not moving. Okay, well, I'm going to eat. I'm going to start eating again because I ain't moving, so whatever. Do what I want.
That's right.
You go forth with the journey and keep going. It never stops.
So were you nervous about pregnancy and weight gain, and how did you feel during that time?
I didn't care about that part.
You didn't care about that part? You were just so excited, right?
I was excited a little bit. I was like, oh, great. I got to go home and tell my mom this. And even though I'm 29 at the time, I'm like, whatever, I'm scared, still scared.
Right.
But having gastric sleeve in pregnancy, it's a lot, because you can't eat the same as a normal person. So she actually came early because she wasn't growing as much, because I couldn't give her as much. Okay. But yeah.
Were you still able to nurse?
I ended up nursing for a little while. I think it was like a month, and then I ended up having to go back to the hospital because I ended up having preeclampsia after the fact.
Oh, wow.
I stayed there, and so when I came back, it kind of, the attachment is gone now, because her Dini loved to give her formula. So yeah, other than that, we would have probably still had the connection.
Okay. That's a good thing. So what pageants do you look forward to?
So the next baby Miss America pageant, because she's still not old enough to do the next ones. So we're hoping to compete again in April and see what happens. The director actually put out something for the pageant moms if they would like to start competitions in their home state.
Okay, good.
We'll see where that goes. I was going to talk to you about that to see.
Okay, let's get it done.
Everybody knows I love Kim. Kim is, listen, I've been at the funeral home now for a long time.
Yes.
And the first person that I ever came across was Kim. Everybody thinks it's trippy, but no, it was Kim. Kim took me under her wing, and I am very appreciative of that. I learned so much outside of funeral business. It's not always the funerals that get you where you're going. It's what you can do outside of that. And just watching you with the girls, too. The girls have been in everything.
Yes.
Oh, my gosh.
Girls do a lot.
They do a lot.
Yeah.
Dancing, makeup, all types of stuff.
All kinds of fun stuff.
Yes.
So, and that just tells about me. So I do love young people. I just helped someone with a pageant.
Really?
My assistant just did a pageant, and so that was fun. She came on with a lot of trophies and things as well. So yes, I do have a secret sweet spot to encourage young women encourage all people, actually, but I think you have a certain space. So my space is with young women and just their greatness, you know. Sometimes they don't see how great they are. And I am here to help you see and encourage you and support you and love you into greatness. So yes, and it's fun for me. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I really do love it. So, so yeah, would love to be a part of whatever is coming up because we can get more people involved. That would be a lot of fun. Mm-hmm. So, and I admire you because, as you're saying, it's not easy doing all of this. It's a challenge, and you have to put in a lot. So you're fundraising, and you're doing a lot to give to your baby. So I applaud you.
Thank you.
In all of that hard work to travel. Mm-hmm. And anyone who's ever been on a plane with a young person knows it's a lot of fun.
No, I've been blessed. She does great on the plane.
Does she really?
Does great on the plane.
Good.
Yes.
She likes people.
She loves people.
Yeah, so that's a big help. So I've had all kinds, and sometimes they don't always act as kind and loving as we want to.
We've seen it in action.
We've seen what happens. So and it's such a great thing because we want to give them independence while teaching them safety and making sure that, you know, it's a balance on every single part of it. But as a young mother, putting all of your love and effort and support into more than just a typical is always challenging.
Definitely.
So we have to be proud of you as Delawareans to make this our baby Miss Delaware. Yay! So that is good. So we pray that she can go ahead in April and bring that crown back one more time and continue to be in pageantry. And I hope you continue to share all of your fun with us.
Try to.
And next time we'll come on sooner and let people know how they can support when we're having our fundraisers. So when will your fundraising start?
Oh, probably March.
March? All right. So we'll look for you to come back on in March and tell us some of these fundraising efforts so we can all support Baby Akor as she goes to her next pageant. How's that sound to everybody? I'm sure out there everybody's like, we'll do it. She's such a sweetheart. So tell us about, she's been in some parades and things too. So tell her what's that like.
That's interesting too, because I didn't realize I have to do all the work. So our last pageant, what do you want, a parade? Is that what you call it? We actually were involved in, was Dover. Dover did their Christmas parade with the lights of their cars. Mommy didn't know that she needed to light up her car. So we ended up going to the Dollar Tree and we lit up my car. And she had it's like a little wagon type thing. We put lights on there. Delaware City, which is our hometown, that's where we're from, was the first parade that she did. We were very fortunate to use the funeral home cars with the lights and the sirens. It was pretty cool. My cousin donated her Volkswagen Bug because, you know, what's a pageant without a convertible?
That's right.
So we had that, and it just has been a joy. And it's a joy to see how people react to a baby. Because you're like, oh, that's just a baby. But they're like, oh my gosh, baby Miss Delaware. And it's cool. It's an experience. And I think that young moms, I feel like we just take on that burden, especially single moms. You take on that burden and you're just like, oh, I just got to be a mom, go to work, do this, but you forget about the fun part. And I think I learned that from my mom so much, her being a single parent. You have to have fun being a parent. If you don't have fun being a parent, they'll never know the excitement of life. And that there's more to life than sitting home and doing your homework, and that's that, or being on your phone. And I just want her to know that too. Like, it's more than just being on your tablet. You can do more in life. There's a lot more you can do. So yeah.
And there's so many things that we can find joy and fun in. So pretty soon she'll be able to go to dance. And so we'll make sure Chase, who is a dance teacher, gets to teach her as well.
Oh, Lord. Poor Chase. Sorry, Chase, in advance.
So we thank you. We look forward to
thank you for having us.
March and letting us know where we can support. And I'm sure you'll get tons of support from the community.
Thank you.
All right. Does she have a Facebook, or she has an Instagram?
She has a Facebook and an Instagram.
You want to share them with us?
Her Facebook is Baby Miss Delaware. If you just put that in, she'll come right up. She has on her little cowboy and her sash. And her Instagram is Acoram, which is CACORAM420.
All right. And tell us why 420?
No, we don't want you to tell you why 420.
Okay. Well, anyway, she's so on me. Really, it's not me. It's really her.
No.
We look forward to supporting you. We really do. Thank you for coming. We applaud you. We, applaud your struggle, applaud your journey, applaud your tenacity. At any time, you could have said, forget it. But through every challenge, you have said, you know what? I don't care what the world says. This is what's going to happen for me. So I think that you've been brave. And we want to applaud you for all that courage and bravery through it all. Yeah. And we got to shout out your mom, because this journey hasn't been yours alone.
No. I have my own momager. She's make sure that she's doing this. Why isn't she doing that? Why move to the left? You're not moving her right. Well, you get up here and move her.
So it's a lot to it, right? It's more than just a little bit.
You'd be surprised. Yeah.
So it does. It takes a village, and you have your village, and so it's such a great thing. And we're also here to support everybody else on that journey. So hey, come on the show. Tell us about your journey.
Definitely.
Tell us about whatever it may be, because this is Community Spotlight. We are here to support our community. Thank you so much for watching. And you're going to send us some pictures that we can include for baby?
Definitely.
All right, Akora, we're going to see you here as well. Thank you so much, and we'll see you next time.